If you're in the market for an affordable people hauler, one that can seat more than 10 people, you don't have that many options. And since there aren't that many to choose from, you typically see the same models plying our streets. But what if I told you that your best option was actually an outlier? Would it go to show that what's popular isn't necessarily what's best? Well, today, let's take a closer look at the Maxus V80 to find out. So just to give you guys a bit of background, Maxus was originally Leyland DAF, also known as the British van manufacturer. They were later acquired by one of the largest automobile manufacturers in China, SAIC Motor Corporation. This is the Maxus V80. It's known as the LDV Maxus in other markets such as UK and Australia. It's also available in numerous trims ranging from a cargo van to a 15 and 18-seater. The one we have here is the comfort model and is a 13-seater. As you can see, this thing is huge. It's massive. In fact, it's wider and taller than most vans in its price range. And looks may be subjective, but what I really like about this is it doesn't scream UV Express. It doesn't look like a shoebox on wheels. What sets this apart is the fact that it has a hood, which definitely plays a huge role when it comes to safety. Up front, you also get a huge grille, halogen headlamps, DRLs, and fog lamps. The Maxus logo is made up of 3 triangles, which stands for technology, confidence, and progress. So while we're here, we might as well take a moment to discuss what's under the hood. So under the hood, you get a 2.5-liter CRDi engine developed by Italian engine specialist VM Motori. This also comes with a Bosch electronically controlled intercooler that pumps out 134 horsepower and 330 Newton meters of torque. Now those numbers may not seem astronomical, but as you'll see later on in the drive, it's quite adequate. Moving on to the side, you'll see that again, it's not your typical shoebox design. There are actually some design elements here in the form of curves. So the designer didn't have a fetish for a ruler. You'll also see that you get this huge side mirror, which is a must for any van this big. It also comes with a built-in blind spot mirror, which is very handy. Now the V80 rolls on 16-inch wheels wrapped in 215 75 series tires, which give the van a comfortable ride. Now as we move to the middle, opening the door reveals a really cool feature, which is the stepboard that pops out each time you get in. Now at the back, you get these huge doors. And I know there are exposed hinges, but that's fine because it beats having to lift a heavy tailgate. This also takes up less space and is so easy to open and close. Now, when you open these doors, you'll see that there may not be enough room for luggage, but you'll be surprised by how much luggage you can actually fit underneath the seats. These seats also fold down in case you need more cargo capacity. Now, let's go check out the rest of the interior because that's where it really counts, especially for people haulers. So as you can see, getting in and out of this thing is a piece of cake. Even my parents can do it without any fuss. But let's talk about what we have here. So behind the driver, you have 3 more rows. You have the second row that seats 3 people, the third row that seats 3 more people, and the fourth row that seats 4 people. The second and third row seats individually recline. You have lap belts and seat pockets for all the occupants. As expected, space here is more than enough. But it's not just the space, it's also the level of comfort because these seats are very soft. Now the bottom of the seats could be a bit longer, but I love the fact that you get adequate head and leg room and you can even stretch out because you can place your feet underneath the front seats, which means that your thighs will be firmly planted on these seats. There's also adequate lighting and the AC at the back is controlled separately. However, the controls are situated up front. But you do get numerous air vents, so the occupants here won't be fighting over them. Now the windows are huge, but it's worth noting that the belt line is lower for those sitting right here at the back. Most vans at this price point usually give you bench type seats, so it's safe to say that the difference here is night and day, especially in terms of comfort. So we're behind the wheel of the V80, and I can tell you right off the bat that there's no denying you're behind the wheel of a van because of the angle of the steering wheel. But that's not to say that this is an unpleasant place to be, because it's still extremely comfortable. The driver even gets this armrest, which comes in really handy for long trips. But more importantly, everything is well within reach despite its size, and I love the position of this gear lever because it makes driving a whole lot easier. There's definitely less fatigue involved with the gear lever positioned closer to the driver. But they didn't exactly hit a home run when it comes to ergonomics, because adjusting the side mirrors will require you to stretch a bit and then check back to see if you made the proper adjustments. But that's a minor gripe. And besides, that's something you'll do not too often. Now, the instrument cluster is placed right smack in the middle, and while I'm not a fan of that aesthetically, I think it serves the van well from a functional standpoint because it gives the driver a great commanding view of the road. In terms of amenities, you really don't get much. You only get this radio, which does come with a USB port and Bluetooth connectivity, so I guess it's safe to say that you do get what you need. Now, the AC controls are manually operated, but they are well within reach. The AC controls for the rear passengers are also over here, and only the front passengers get control over them, so you have to be nice to the people sitting up front. One thing I want to point out though is that the horn button is positioned on the side of the steering wheel, so I find myself pressing it inadvertently. Now, there's enough room here for 3 passengers, each of which will get 3-point seat belts. And legroom will be adequate even for the one sitting in the middle because there's no center console. In terms of storage, you get trays on top of the dashboard, a glove box, of course, and cup holders. Now, the materials here lean more towards the durable side, which is perfectly fine considering this van's intended purpose. Now, there's really not much else to say, so I think it's time to get this baby out on the road. So when you get behind the wheel of the V80, there's really no denying how big this vehicle is. It really does feel huge. But does it make it difficult to drive? Well, the answer to that is a resounding no. Because the visibility is really good, so you have a nice commanding view of your surroundings. And despite its size, everything is well within reach. And it is evident that you are driving a van because of the position of the steering wheel. But it doesn't make it taxing because the seats are extremely comfortable. So despite its heft, you feel the weight on the steering, you feel the weight of the clutch. It still isn't exhausting to drive because of merely how comfortable it is behind the wheel. Now, this van's biggest highlight against all its competitors would have to be its comfort and its suspension, because the seats are comfortable for all the occupants. There's good under thigh support, and the driver even gets this armrest. And that takes a lot of the stress out of driving such a big vehicle. But the suspension is also extremely compliant for something like this. And right now, I'm the only occupant in the car, but still, the ride isn't jarring. So it gets even better as you load this up with more people. Now, in terms of power delivery, the engine does struggle a bit with all its weight. But the way to mitigate that is to simply just keep it on lower gears. And in that regard, the van is extremely capable. And what makes the visibility great is the fact that the dash sits low. But aside from that, you also have your instrument cluster in the middle. So that further improves your visibility. The belt line is also extremely low, and the side mirrors are huge, and they have built-in blind spot mirrors. So you really see everything you need to see. Parking this thing isn't difficult, I kid you not when I say that, because it does have proximity sensors, but it would have been better if it had a reverse camera. That would make things or your life a whole lot easier when parking this. But in any case, this thing is not difficult to park. If you're in the market for a van within the price point of the V80, I strongly suggest that you take this one into consideration, because I am confident that against its competitors, its mainstream competitors, this provides a better ride. And when I say better, I mean the difference is night and day. I'm pretty sure of that. So this is really worth taking a look. As far as the driving experience is concerned, I'm not sure if most of the buyers will end up being behind the wheel of this vehicle, But in any case, driving this thing is a non-issue. I mean, it's not taxing, it's not exhausting, and it's pretty easy to drive, especially considering its size. Prices for the V80 starts out at 1,190,000 pesos and tops out at 1,570,000 pesos for this range-topping comfort model. And as the name suggests, this really is comfortable. In fact, that's what sets it apart from its mainstream competitors. The bonus there is you get to ride in something that doesn't look like a shoebox on wheels.